Hi, Hay House family. It's Kelly Notaras, the author of the book you were born to write. And I'm so happy to be here with you today. This is a really fun topic that I'm going to be talking about today. Essentially, I hope that by the end of this Facebook Live, you will know that 2019 is the year of your book. Before I jump in and explain what I mean by that, I just wanted to take care of some logistics and let you know that this is a live Q&A in addition to being a little bit of a lecture from me. So I want to know what your comments are. I want to see what you have to say and what questions you have. I'm going to answer some frequently asked questions that I get, but I also want to know if any of you who are watching live have questions. So just feel great about going ahead and putting your questions in the comments section. I will go through them in a little while. Hi, Jennifer. So good to see everybody starting to show up. So why is 2019 the year of your book? Well, I have a few reasons why I think that, and I'm just going to start there. The fact is that if you have a book dream and you are a Hay House person, it's very likely that the impetus for putting this book into the world is that you actually want to make positive change in the world. So my first reason why I believe that 2019 is the year of your book is because we need it. We need it. I get chills even when I say that. We need it. Never before have we been facing a future like what we're facing right now. And we need positive voices. We need transformational work. We need the wisdom that you have accumulated from your life and your lineage and all the people on whose shoulders you are standing. And we need it because we have become more and more sophisticated of a readership, of a society and a race of humans and a readership. And each individual person has a voice and a story and a message that's unique. And there are people who will not hear this message from anyone but you. So we need you. And that's the first reason why I feel like 2019 is the year of the book, is because we need it more than we ever have before. Your book needs to be in the world. The second reason why is that truly never before in history has it been so easy and within reach of so many people to actually publish a book. Truly, it's remarkable. And when we kind of look at our world around us and everything's very technologically evolved and savvy, and we think, well, anybody can publish a book. They always have been able to. But that is not true. So recently, in the very recent past, even having paper was a luxury that only the wealthiest had access to. And today you can buy a notebook for 99 cents in any drugstore. And you have your computer and your iPad and your smartphone. There are so many ways in which we can record our wisdom and the stories that we have to share. It's just simply never been easier to record it. It's also never been easier to publish it because there are so many options for self-publishing a book. It's a remarkable turn of events. In the 20 years that I have been in the book business, it has not been the case that entire 20 years. It's only in the last 8 to 10 years that there was digital on-print demand, or digital on-print demand, yes, publishing, meaning you could order 1 copy, 2 copies, 10 copies of your book. That was not the case when I started in publishing. You had to order 1,000 copies, 5,000 copies, 10,000 copies of your book, and they were sitting in your garage. So it was a huge undertaking beyond just the experience of writing the book, which is in and of itself a huge undertaking. It was a really big commitment that is just not there anymore because you can just order a few copies. And even if those few copies touch deeply a few lives, then isn't it worth it? I feel like it is, especially if we have that call and that dream in our heart. So that's another reason why I feel like 2019 is the year of your book, because you, and I mean you, can have a book in your hand in 2019. It is entirely possible for you. So one more reason is just to say that I have published this book, which I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I have to say, I feel like I gave you guys the information that you need in this book, with the combination of the information I have in here, all the amazing information you get from Reed Tracy at Hay House, any of you who are involved in the Writer's Workshop. The information is available, and it's not even that expensive, you know, $26 book and discounted at all the major retailers. You know, it's out there, it's available, you have the resources that you need. So that is why I really believe that 2019 is the year of your book. And what I want to talk about today before I do Q&A, so please, I would love it if you wanted to send any questions in. I'll be, you know, answering frequently asked questions that I get and also live questions if you have them here. Before I get to that, I want to talk to you about the grand tradition of the New Year's resolution, which many of you probably have made specifically around writing in maybe the last few years. Maybe you've been making writing New Year's resolutions your whole life. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my process for making my New Year's resolutions, including my writing resolutions. And then also I'm going to tell you my four tips, my best tips for actually making those resolutions real. Because of course, as we all know, it's very easy to be inspired to write resolutions and it's harder to actually keep them going in the long term. So I'm going to give you that information. But first, how do I do my own New Year's resolutions? So every year for the past 10 years, I've written myself a New Year's letter. And I read that letter the following New Year's and then write my next one. And in that letter, I debrief what's happened in the past year, the highs and the lows and the things that I learned. That's really what my focus has been over the last 10 years, is sort of what did I learn this year? What were the big turning points for me this year? And then as I look forward to the next year, I write what I would like. What would I like? And specifically, what would I like around my writing goals? Because writing is a part of my life. I actually had a friend ask me last night, if you weren't a writer and an editor, what would you be? And my first thought was a screenwriter. And then I was like, wait a second, that's still a writer. And it made me laugh because I thought, wow, I didn't know how much I love being a writer. But when you ask me to do something else, I can't think of anything else I'd want to do. And I feel like some part of me would be really shut down if I couldn't write. So writing has long been on my list of resolutions. But here's the key. This is what makes, I think, my resolution process different than many people's. I don't just set a goal. I don't say, I want a book by the end of the year. Even though I think that's a great goal and I would love that for all of you. And I highly recommend that you turn your ship in that direction. Again, I do think 2019 is the year of your book. But I don't necessarily believe that just writing some big goal is the best way to actually accomplish it. Partially because a book is such a huge undertaking, and it really is, as I say, a million tiny good decisions, one after the next. And so to say, I'm just going to write a book this year, it actually doesn't set you up well for what it's going to be like day to day when you have to sit down and do the button chair time, right? So the first thing I do is I chunk it down. I don't say, I want to write a whole book this year. Instead, I just say, the first thing I want to do in this year is I want to write a really detailed outline for my book. That's what I want to do. That is my baseline. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write this outline for my book. And if and when I complete the outline for my book, I am going to write chapter 1. Chapter 1. And maybe you are actually working on a book proposal. So maybe it's like, I'm going to write the first 2 sections of my book proposal. And if and when I finish the first 2 sections of my book proposal, then I'm going to write the 3rd and the 4th sections. Or then I'm going to write chapter 2 and 3. So that there's a progression that if you don't make it all the way to the end of your book, it's not seen or felt, most importantly, as a failure. If you just do that one chunk, if you just wrote that outline, you actually did the thing you promised to do. And if you did that, you're going to do this next thing too. And as you can see, completing the first piece sort of begets, it activates the agreement you made with yourself to do the second piece. And then if you complete the second piece, that activates the agreement you made with yourself to do the third piece. So chunking down your large goal into doable bite-sized pieces, and in a way you're under-promising yourself so that you are able to over-deliver to yourself. So that's the first thing that I do in terms of my New Year's resolutions. The second thing is that I don't just say, I want to write a book. I elicit a fuller picture of what that's going to be like for myself. So I say, when I have a book in hand, I am going to feel this list of all the feelings I expect and hope to feel, anticipate feeling. This is what I'm going to be feeling like. This is what you will be seeing in my life. This is what you'll see me doing. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing Facebook Lives on the Hay House page. I'm going to be, standing in front of groups, reading from my book. I'm going to be facilitating writing retreats, whatever it might be that you want to be doing. You say, I'm going to be doing these things. You'll see me doing these things. And then the third one is what I'm going to be saying to myself. What's going to be going through my mind on a daily basis once I have that book in hand. So that the focus is actually no longer specifically and intensely focused on that one goal. We're actually painting a big picture of what life is going to be like. And that picture is more motivating than the idea in our head, oh, I would like to have a book in the world. I would like to be feeling like this. Feelings are incredibly motivating. And I talk about that quite a bit in the book. In the writing section of the book, I talk about why it's so important to motivate yourself through feeling instead of just thinking. So that's a huge motivator. And then cool, fun things I'm going to be doing once I have my book in hand. Like, I'm excited about those things. So again, I start, making pictures of my future where I'm going to be doing these really cool things, and that's motivating. And then here's a really fun secret, which you might have already guessed. Once you start saying to yourself, like, what would I be saying to myself when I have this book in hand? I will be saying, good job. You're doing great. What a success. How cool is this? What do you want to do next? And once you start planting the seed in your subconscious of actual phrases you're going to be saying to yourself, they somehow take up residence immediately. And guess what? They are very helpful motivators on the book writing process. Good job. You're doing great. I didn't know you could accomplish such a cool thing. I'm so proud of you. Those are the kinds of voices I want to be playing in your head throughout the whole year of your book, this 2019 year for you. So all of that feels to me like it will help generate the motivation and the staying power that's required to actually complete a full-length book. Okay, so what are my 4 tips for actually sticking to your resolution? I'm going to tell you these first, and then I'm going to answer some questions. So please, if you have questions or comments, by all means, put them. I see some of you have been writing. I'm very excited about that. Thank you. Please, by all means, let me know your questions because I'd love to answer them. So number 1, and I kind of just covered this a little bit, is to make your goals easily achievable. Chunk them down so that you are under-promising yourself and over-delivering. That is the number 1 way I have come across in my own life to actually continue and do the hard work of walking the path of that resolution. It's very important, and I highly recommend that you consider taking big goals and chunking them down to bite-sized pieces. It's great. It's such a good feeling to exceed our goals, right? So let's exceed our goals. Let's just give ourselves something doable. And you know what's so funny is that it's actually scarier to put on your to-do list, your resolution list, I'm going to write an outline for my book, because that is not going to take that long, right? So, I don't really have the excuse of I don't have enough time, right? It sort of helps you get around all the really, really good excuses that generally keep you from getting those goals accomplished, to make them really small and make them a chain, like I said before. And if I write that outline, then I'll write the first chapter. And if I write the first chapter, I'll write the second chapter. So make them easily achievable. Number 2, this is so important, my friends, social accountability. So I'll give you an example from my own life. I am a meditator. I've been a meditator for 15 years. I'm as deeply, if someone said you couldn't meditate anymore, I don't know what I would do. I am deeply, deeply attached to my meditation practice. And guess what? Every morning, it is a struggle to sit down on the cushion. Anybody feel me on that? I am deeply devoted to the experience of meditation, to the feeling that I get when I'm meditating, and it is still very hard to sit down every day. There's so many better things to do. You know what? 2 days a week, I absolutely do it. 2 days a week. Now I try to do it more, and often I get in 3 and 4, but 2 days a week I'm sitting. Why? Because my wonderful spiritual community has 2 weekly Zoom, so video conference meditation sessions where we all jump on the line, say nothing to each other, meditate together for an hour. Those are the 2 sessions on Wednesdays and Saturdays that I actually do every week. That is the power of social accountability. It's not like anybody's going to like give me, any sort of guff for not being there, but knowing that that someone might notice, knowing that it's going on without me, it somehow motivates me to actually sit down and meditate. And the same goes for writing. So I encourage you to find writing partners. Even start a little Zoom writing salon or Skype writing salon where you all get together and you say, we're going to write for an hour on Tuesdays and Saturdays at this hour. And we're not going to say anything to each other. We're all going to be on mute. We'll just wave to each other and then we will write. Something about that makes it easier. It makes it more likely you're going to do it. It makes it more fun to not be doing it by yourself. That sort of social accountability actually helps. So where can you find these people? Well, Hay House has a wonderful Facebook group called the Hay House Writers Studio. Why don't you pop over there if you're not already a member and join it? And once you get welcomed into the group, put a post and say, does anybody want to do social accountability for writing in 2019? Is 2019 the year of your book too? If so, why don't we join together? I'll organize it, or whatever feels right to you. And see about finding friends there who are also writing transformational books. Or maybe you already have a girlfriend or a guy friend who is, in a deep writing process as well. Why don't you suggest that you all get together? A friend of mine and I often do something that we call a study hall. We go to a coffee shop and we say hi and meet each other, but we sit there side by side on our computers and we do study hall. Why not do that? Why not plan study halls with a friend or 2 friends? Somehow set yourself into a group of writers where you're actually writing together. Something will shift and it will be so much easier to keep your writing resolutions to yourself. Another way, I'm just going to pop through these 2 so I can get to some Q&A, is to book yourself a writing retreat. I oftentimes say that books do not get written in these like long solo month-long events by the beach, although some do, but most don't. Most get written in small chunks over the course of weeks in the middle of the chaos of everyday life, right? But having a writing retreat is something that you can look forward to. It's something that you can prepare for and should prepare very well for. I actually have a blog coming out this weekend about how to prepare for a writing retreat at knliterary.com if you want to check it out, coming out on Saturday. It's very important to get into the process of writing before you go on the retreat. And then once you go on the retreat, something happens and you start to really recognize yourself as a writer. You've done it. You've sat down day after day. Maybe you do a 3 or a 5-day retreat, whatever you'd like to do. You will know on the other side that you are a writer. So go ahead and consider booking yourself a writing retreat in 2019. And then finally, again, a little plug for my book. Oh, upside down. This book, I truly gave everything I've got in this book. And so this is something that I offer to you. 2018 was the year of my book. And I had to, my year of book had to be 2018, so yours could be 2019. I really did take the 20 years of publishing wisdom that I have and of working one-on-one with authors and put it all into this book. And my hope is that it will be useful to you. And I've gotten a lot of really wonderful comments. And I know probably some of you who are watching this have already received the book. I've heard from people that they've been trying to write a book for 2 years. They've had my book for 2 days and they've made more progress in those 2 days. And do I think it's because, it's so groundbreaking what I have in the book? I don't. But even the act of investing in the book, both in terms of financial investment and also in the time to read it, something turns on. There's some part of us that's just like, yes, I'm a reader. I'm a writer. That is what I'm doing. And I believe that if you use this book and take it chunk by chunk, piece by piece, do the actual practices that are in there, 2019 will be more likely to be the year of your book, and you will be able to keep your resolutions more closely. So with that, I am going to move into some Q&A. So here we go. I'm going to just pop in here and see. Oh, you guys are amazing. Hi, everybody. I love seeing all of this. Okay, so Miriam says, I have 2 books on Amazon, and I know I have other books inside of me, but don't know what to write about. Well, that's an interesting question. Many people do ask me sort of, where do you get your ideas? How do people actually, find themselves writing a book? And the truth is that I can only talk to you really about my own process. But as I said before, I'm a meditator, and I can't tell you how many ideas come flowing in when I'm quiet. This past weekend, after this massive book launch I've just gone through, I had the chance to be by myself in a hotel room for 24 hours. And I thought, oh, I'm not opening my computer. I'm just going to lie here in bed and just luxuriate in the quiet. And wouldn't you know it, within a couple of hours, I was sitting up at my computer because the ideas were just pouring forth. All I had to do was give myself a couple hours of quiet, and I had a new idea for 5 different types of books and all sorts of other things I want to do. And so that would be my suggestion, is to sit in quiet and ask. Because there's another piece that is sort of, I think, somewhat unique to me in the world of folks helping writers. I believe that if you have a book dream, it's not yours alone. It's coming from life. Life has plans for you. Life has plans for your story. Life has plans for the wisdom you've collected. Life is asking for something from you. And life speaks in the silence. So put yourself into that experience of quiet and see what comes through. Let's see, what other questions do I have in here? Yay. Hi, guys. Okay, here we go. From Charlotte, thanks for being here. I'm resizing my original idea regarding the book, and I want to start with an ebook. Great. I hope to generate both revenue and give folks a way to get acquainted with me. I think that, and any thoughts about this? I will say absolutely. I think that's a great idea. So my take on books today is that they are a wonderful way to pave a path for people to find what it is that your mission, what you're meant to offer, your purpose. So if you are a counselor or a coach, or if you're a yoga instructor or a healer, an acupuncturist, or if you simply have wisdom that you've gained on this amazing journey of your life, there are people out there that need to hear it, but they may not know how to find you. And a book is a wonderful way to spread the word about your work and to get people, as you say, Charlotte, acquainted with you. Now, the thing is, you do still have to do the platform building. You still have to do things like, this kind of a Facebook Live. You need to build a website. You need to be posting on social media about your book. These are all the ways that you entice people to actually pick it up. But the people that pick it up, if they love it, if it's well edited, if it's well written, if it's useful and helpful, they will pass it along to other people. So the people who are in your immediate circle who somehow have heard about you, maybe they're your friend, or maybe they have heard about you through your publisher, or maybe there's lots of different ways people find social media posts. Somehow they found you. But then they talk about you to people who haven't yet found you. And then that word of mouth is how the word spreads about you and your work. So an ebook is an excellent place to start. And it's a great idea. I think, when you said sort of a lower barrier to entry, it is a lower barrier to entry than a paper book. Although you still need to have it edited. You still need to get a beautiful cover designed by someone I prefer who actually designs book covers for a living, and you need to get the interior designed, as an ebook so that it is easy to read. So there's still work you need to do, but it is something that people feel, I think even maybe psychologically, it's a little bit easier to think, oh, well, it's not a real book. It's not going to be like a paper book in hand. So, it's easier for you maybe to actually say, I can do that. That's my bite-sized goal. So I think it's a great idea, and I do think it will help people find you. Okay, going to look for more questions over here. Okay, let's see. You guys are amazing. Let's see. A colleague just invited me to take part in a course for creating an ebook. I haven't read your book yet, but I'm curious as to what you think about ebooks as a start. Well, there you go. You guys are all on the same page. I think it's a great idea to start with an ebook. There's really no reason not to. It's a really beautiful new technology that allows more people to find your book. It allows you, because you're not paying the cost of goods for an actual copy of the book, it allows you to set the price very low. And that then allows you to actually get readers who wouldn't buy it otherwise. A friend of mine, for example, is offering an ebook for 99 cents for 2 days after his book publishes. And I think that's a great idea. Even though he's not going to make a ton of money off of it, the idea is not to make the money off the copies sold, but it's meant to spread the word about the book. And once your ebook starts working and taking off, then you might want to actually put it into a paper book form, because people who love an ebook, they oftentimes go back and purchase the paper book as well. And you might want to do an audiobook. That's another way that a lot of people are finding books these days is via audio, and then they want to go and buy the paper book. So it's a really interesting thing. People used to think, back when I first got into the business, ebooks was this new thing. I can remember sitting in an editorial meeting at Avon Books, and I want to say it wasn't Amazon at the time. I think it was Barnes and Noble that had sent us a new Nook. I don't even think it was called a Nook yet. And it was passed around in the meeting. And we were like, what is this thing? What is this electronic book reader that we are all looking at? And now obviously it's so common and it's such a norm these days. And we didn't know at that time. We thought it was going to ruin our book sales, honestly. We thought, wow, people are going to be buying this lower priced book, and the publishers and the authors weren't going to get paid as much for each copy. And then we were just like, no, this is a terrible idea. Little did we know what was going to happen, which is that many people who purchase an ebook actually go back and buy the paper book. So you actually get that income twice if you are a publisher. So it was actually good for the publishers in that way. And if you're publishing your own book, it's good for you as well. Okay, let's see. Kelly, so I decided that I'm okay with getting a writer for my book that I've started. How do I find a writer to complement my voice and style? Well, the truth is that if someone is a ghostwriter for a living, if that's what they do, they ought to be able to copy your voice and style regardless of who you are. Now, is that 100% always the case? No, I wouldn't say it is, but on the whole, it actually is something that people are really good at. I have ghostwritten books, and I've had the friends and family members of the people that I've ghostwritten for say, wow, this is indistinguishable from my friend or family member's voice. How did you do that? And it's just, as a ghostwriter, you start getting into that voice. You listen to them a lot. So this, for you, Kelly, your ghostwriter should be listening to your voice and getting copies of maybe talks you've done, or talking to you on the phone a lot. This is the way that we sort of adopt the voice, and a good ghostwriter will be able to slip right into your voice. And so the most important thing I would say is making sure you have somebody who has a history of ghostwriting behind them, of successful ghostwriting behind them. And maybe if you don't have, so at KN Literary Arts, my company, we know our ghostwriters can do it. We only hire the best, and we know they can do it. But if you're hiring somebody directly, you may ask them for their book list and go look and see how well they did on other books, and maybe even on books like yours. And then you can also ask for recommendations from them, to somebody that they've worked with, maybe a publisher who published one of their books, or an author they worked with, so that you can just have someone else standing behind you saying, yeah, this person's really good at what they do. And most freelance ghostwriters who work on their own are used to that, and they would gladly give you the recommendation and backup that you need. Okay, and one other thing I want to say about ghostwriting. If you're super precious about your words, I am, you may not be a good candidate for ghostwriting. I'm not saying you particularly, Kelly, but just in general, that's the only time I've ever found that a ghostwriter is not a good match, is when the author really loves their writing process and loves their exact words. if you are that person, you have two choices. One is to write your book yourself. The other is to just know you're going to need to deep dive, even with the best ghostwriter, and actually make a bunch of edits so that it feels like you. There's a way that if someone is an artist about their writing, it's harder to get somebody to make them happy. You know, as someone who works with writers all the time and helps find ghostwriters for authors, the only times it doesn't work is when the client really, really, really wants every single word to be what they would have said in that instance. Most ghostwriters are going to get about 60 to 75% there, and that is fine for most authors. But if you are feeling like you're an artist around your writing, you may end up needing to go back in and rework it so that you feel like your art is there, in addition to just things you might have said. You might need to know, this is exactly what I would have said, right? It's a slight difference, but it makes a big difference to someone who feels writing is their art. So I just wanted to say that about ghostwriting. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Oh, thank you so much, Joe, for saying after you finish reading the book, you'll post an Amazon review. Thank you. If anyone has read the book and you want to post an Amazon review, I would be so grateful. It is a really important way that people find a book in the world. And so it's something that when you have your book out, you will want to ask your launch team, your community to do for you, because it helps people who don't know you actually find your book. So thank you so much for the offer. I will take you up on it. Let's see, what else do we got here? Let's see, Lisa Marie, if there is anything that I've learned from your coaching editing services that I purchased over the last year, thank you. It was to write an outline. Great, love it, yes. You got the message, that's the message. Question, I'm already beginning to structure my second book, and how do I know if I should write a book proposal or submit to a traditional publisher, or I should just write the book? My first book, edited by your company and is published by Balboa Press, will be out in January 2019. Yay, woohoo, excited for you, Lisa Marie. Wonderful. So how do you know if you should go for a traditional publisher or you should self-publish? So the main communications I want to make on this point is that the reason why publishers are so choosy over who they put on their list is because from a business perspective, they must know that that book is going to be successful for them. So I often talk about building your author platform and how important that is. Why is that important? Because it makes it more likely that there will be people available and excited to purchase your book when it comes out, because they already know who you are. They're already following you. They're already getting your newsletter every week. They're already liking your posts on Facebook. However you're communicating, maybe you're a speaker who actually travels around and does speaking engagements in real life. Whatever it is, there are people who know you and are excited to buy your book. A publisher takes a big financial risk when they bring your book on board. Even if they don't pay you a big advance against your royalties, they have to pay for editing, they have to pay for the cover design, the interior design, they pay for marketing people to figure out what kind of copy needs to go on the outside, they pay to keep the lights on in the building, they pay for the upper management, they pay for all these things, and your book actually needs to be something they feel like is a sure bet that it will make back at least their cost that they put into getting it out into the world, okay? So for you, if you self-publish, you will need to put in, upfront costs, those same things, not obviously keeping the lights on or, the upper management, but your cover design, your interior design, maybe a copywriter to help you with your marketing copy, the editorial services that you'll want to do on the interior, both content editing and technical editing, all of that does represent an upfront cost that you will want to invest to the degree that you can. However, you will make, the idea is that you make back that money through some other part of your business or services that you offer. Maybe you teach retreats, maybe you do one-on-one coaching. However you are, whatever the next offering is that you want to give to the people who find your book, maybe it's an online course, that's how you're going to make back that money. The publishers don't have that secondary, most publishers don't have that secondary source of income. They need to make the money back on book sales. And book sales, it takes a lot of books to make back that money. So, this book is $26 retail. They sell it to Amazon for half that. so $13. They owe me money for each copy of the book. They owe, they've got to pay for marketing. They've got still are working off all the costs on the interior. Like, it's not a lot of money per book sold that goes to a publisher. So for them to make back the thousands of dollars they're going to put into the book, they need to know that they're going to have people buying it. So all of that to say, the question I would ask you if you're trying to decide whether to self-publish or traditionally publish is, do you have an author platform yet? If you don't yet, use your book, Lisa Marie, that you're publishing in January to build that momentum, to build the interest. Send it to podcasters and get on their show. Send it to local radio, maybe even local TV if it's an appropriate topic. You start to build the momentum. People start to get to know you. You send out copies of the book. You make it as a low-priced ebook. People start to hear about you and tell other people about you. You have some offering that's the next step up they can purchase from you to engage with you because they liked you so much from your book, is available on your website. So there's a way that you set this up, this ecosystem with your book as one of the main pieces of the pie, and one that goes out further than you can go out yourself, and it brings people back to you, and you start to generate that email list that the publishers are looking for. So that would be what I would say, is if you have, it depends on your topic, how much of an email list you need, but let's say we want emails in the thousands and toward the tens of thousands and above is what a publisher is going to need to feel certain that they will make back the money that they have invested in putting your book into the world. So hopefully that answered your question. It's always for now, self-publish for now. If you actually have the message that a large group of people want to hear, I believe it will find its way to those people, and over the course of time, a publisher will get more and more interested in you. So just keep going, getting your book out, doing your work, having fun along the way, and see what happens. So that's my take on that. Let's see. Should I use a pen name, Carolyn? Well, this depends on what you're writing about and whether you feel like, let's see. How should I say this? The problem with a pen name is that it makes it harder for people to connect with you, right? Because here you guys are, you're connecting with me. My name's Kelly Notaras. I've written the book you were born to write, and we know each other, right? I've seen many of your names. Some of you are clients at my company, KN Literary Arts. Like, there's ways in which we know each other, and I'm the real me, right? I am me. You're seeing me. This is my house. This is me. I'm not writing under a pen name. Now, if I were willing to become a pen name, if I were willing to become that person, that's a different story. So there are a lot of authors that you know and love whose name that is on their book and who they answer to every day of their life is not the name they were given at birth. That's a lot of people, including Louise Hay. So many people have changed their names, but they changed their name. It's not that they wrote under a pen name, they changed their name. So a pen name is limiting if it keeps you from marketing the book and having people feel connected to you. We want readers to feel connected to you. We want them to feel like they know who you are. They love you. They are fans of yours and they're friends of yours. That's what sells books and what gets the message that you have for the world out into the world. So it just gets limited if you're putting a book out there and you're kind of like, I don't know who wrote that. Wow, that's a really good book over there written by so-and-so. I don't know who wrote it. It's a little bit different than saying, hey, I put my heart and my soul into this book and I want you to read it because I know that it's going to be useful for you. And it's my story that is just so transformational. And I know that it can help you not have to fall into the same, holes that I fell into on my journey, right? So there's just a really different amount of marketing that's available, truly. And now, some people are not interested in marketing their book, and the writing of the book itself is the way. That is the path, that's their journey, that's what they are looking for. And that's, like, I have a friend whose mom has written a memoir that she actually was revealing things that she didn't think her kids were gonna like. She didn't think that, and she was right. It totally happens. And she didn't want her family to know about and her employer. So she wrote it under a pen name and probably has sold 100 copies, if that, right? But for her, the thing wasn't to sell 1,000 copies, and it wasn't to become a name in a particular area. It was her memoir, and the entire point of the journey was she needed to get it written down. She needed to have that written down for her own self, for her own journey. And if that is you, by all means, use a pen name if you feel that. So it's a very personal decision. I hope I just gave you some information that will help. Okay, let's see. Hi, everybody. Oh, yay. Catherine says, is there a good place to find a ghostwriter? Well, it's sort of the same, I think, as finding anyone to help you on your book, whether it's a coach or a collaborator or an editor. You can truly find a ghostwriter online. I know that sounds crazy, but these days everything is available online. And so I suggest a couple different places. Obviously, I have a company, and that is what we do. We ghostwrite, edit, and coach writers of transformational books in particular. And it's called knliterary.com. You can go there right now and find out more about us, schedule a call for a free chat with an editor. That's what we do. So there are other companies like us out there that do this kind of work and specialize in different parts of it. I actually talk about a few of them in the resources section of this book, but you can also go to a freelance website like Upwork, UPWORK, Upwork.com. Upwork has freelancers that are there. Again, since you're not hiring them through a company that is sort of walking along with you and vetting the process along the way, like my company and other studios like ours, you will want to do that vetting yourself. So you'll want to find out, what books they've written and go check them out, make sure they feel good to you. But Upwork is a great place to look for people. You can also go to Craigslist. People are often advertising writing services on Craigslist. These are places where you can find somebody who's maybe a little newer to the game, and you might get a deal. Now, you get the financial deal, but sometimes you're their first person they've worked with. And so you get to sort of decide, is that right for me? You have to kind of weigh the pros and cons. When it comes to pricing, it oftentimes is you get what you pay for. The higher priced people have more experience and more books under their belt and more references to share, et cetera. And the people who are just starting out are going to not charge you as much because they're just starting out. And that's fine too. It's sort of, there's a lot of different options for where you are on your journey and where the writer is on their journey. But yeah, again, just my number one goal for you is to find someone who writes, edits, coaches for a living. I don't want you using somebody who is your best friend's daughter who just graduated from college, unless that's your only option financially. And if that's the case, great, go for it and see how it works. And maybe that person's brilliant, and if they are, send them to KN Literary. We're always looking for new ghostwriters. But definitely, if you can find someone who does this for their job, then you've got someone who's got the expertise in the corner that you are looking for. So those are some ideas for how to find a ghostwriter. And let's see, Patricia, my book is the first in a series that's fiction. Great. Probably fantasy sci-fi for young adults. Great. Book 1 is finished. I'll be asking a friend who's an editor if she has time. Great. Wonderful. I've not found yet is guidance for writing a book proposal or pitching a book that's fiction. Great. Great question. So many of you probably are writing fiction. Maybe you're writing children's books. Maybe you're writing poetry. In these cases, it's a really different process for creating a book proposal or pitching. So I assume if you're thinking about a book proposal and you are in the Writers Online workshop, so you have an opportunity, a really great opportunity to submit your work on a deadline, and it's sometime in 2019, to be reviewed by the Hay House editorial team. It's an amazing opportunity that comes along with any of the writers' workshops that you join. And for writers of nonfiction, you need to produce a book proposal. For writers of fiction, you do not need to write a book proposal. How cool is that? You don't need to write a book proposal. However, you have to write the entire book. I know. I hope that's not the worst news you heard all day. For fiction, when you're submitting, whether it's to the Hay House Writers Workshop or to an agent who's going to be shopping it around to publishers, or to an independent publisher who accepts unsolicited submissions, and there still are smaller publishers that do. The big publishers all require an agent. Smaller publishers don't. If you are submitting a novel to any of these places, you have to submit the entire book. Why? Because the reading experience is the number one most important factor for an acquisitions editor when they are deciding whether to buy your book or not. And I was an acquisitions editor for many years, and in the first 7 years of my journey, I was in New York, and I did fiction that whole time, and nonfiction, both. But I did quite a bit of fiction. And what I was looking for was a book that kept me up all night, because I wanted something that was so gripping that I couldn't put it down. And I also needed to know, before I made the pitch to my editorial team and to my editorial director for buying the book, I needed to know that the ending satisfied everything that came before. It is so important. The ending of a book is so critical that to buy a book without seeing how the author is going to finish the story, it doesn't really work. And it doesn't even really work to give me a synopsis of how the story is going to finish if I don't know for sure you are capable of producing an extremely readable version of that synopsis. It's not easy. Writing fiction is not easy. There are so many twists and turns, and every scene has to be just perfect. It has to really just be needed and necessary and dialed and refined. And I need to know that that continues all the way to the very end. Early in my career as a book editor, I was an assistant to a wonderful editor at HarperCollins, and she was a fiction editor. And we got in the most amazing, I mean truly, most amazing first 25 pages of a novel I had ever read. And I worked for her for 3 years, and that author could never finish that book. We bought it on spec, which is very rare for fiction, and he couldn't finish it. He could not produce an ending that was actually worthy of that beginning. And so that's the pitfall that editors and agents do not want to fall into. They need to see the entire book. So if you're submitting to the Hay House contest, here's what they want to see: a cover letter explaining who you are and a little blurb about the book. And then they want to see the book itself. And then if you have a series idea, which is recommended if you're writing fiction for the Hay House contest, they are less likely to buy a standalone one-off book. They're more interested in buying a series because they know that if the first book works, they'll be able to buy the next and the next after that. And it becomes, they're making an investment in you as the author. This is not the case for every publishing company, but it is for Hay House. So I know that many of you who are watching this are probably involved in the Hay House Writers Workshop, and you'll want to make sure that you are doing what they would like. So with them, what they would like then is a synopsis of book 2 and book 3. 1 page or less each synopsis, explaining what's going to happen with the characters, what's the next adventure they're going to go on, what's the next crime they're going to solve, or whatever it might be. So full-length first book, synopsis for 2 and 3. Cover letter, full-length manuscript, synopsis. Those are the things that you need to submit to the Hay House contest if you are entering as a fiction writer. And that's also great for you if you're going to be sending out to agents and publishers. They will want to see a query letter first in most cases. So that's your cover letter you've written. And then they will request the manuscript if they want to read it, and then you send them the manuscript along with the synopses of the next 2 books. Hopefully that answered your question. I'm just going to triple check the time. Okay, I'm going to go a little while longer. Let's see what else we have. Beautiful. Oh, thank you, Diane, you're here. Oh, mwah. Diane Ridley Roberts, I love you. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Okay, who else do we have here? I think I'll answer one more question. Oh, you guys are so great. Oh, great. So beautiful. Let's see if there's any, I know I've missed some questions here, so I'm going to back up and see what else we have here. If there's any other questions. Okay, last chance, last call for questions if anybody has one that they'd like to Yay, you guys are so amazing. Oh, Nicole, so I hope you can attend my writing retreat at 1440. I hope you do. I'm doing 2 writing retreats this spring. One is in January at 1440 Multiversity, and the second one is at Kripalu, 5-day writing retreats. It's going to be very focused on actually writing with also some one-on-one time so we can talk about your ideas, etc. Let's see if there's anything else here. Okay, I think that that's all the questions. So I feel so grateful for the opportunity to share what I've learned in the last 20 years. It is just truly a gift to be able to offer what I know and know that it's helping. And I have been hearing a lot from readers of this book that it's helpful. So if you've got it, I hope that you read it and love it. And I really do hope that it helps 2019 become the year of your book. It's truly something that I would like for you. So by all means, you can let me know, contact me at knliterary.com. Tell me what you think about the book. Tell me any questions that you'd like to have answered. It's a gift and a wonderful honor to be a part of your journey. And I hope that you'll stay in touch and that we can have more conversations about your book and that I can hear from you sometime in 2019 that your book has hit the shelf. That is my sincere wish for you. So thank you so much for being here today. Wonderful to meet you and see you all here. And I will look forward to the next time we can connect. All right, friends, take care.